Did you know that the population of South Dakota is less than 900,000? This makes it the 6th least populated state in the entire U.S. And with a population density of just 12 people per square mile, you might begin to wonder, why do so few people live here? Well, today on Across the Globe, we're going to look at the reasons why nobody lives in South Dakota. Number 1. It lacks urban amenities. The largest city in South Dakota is Sioux Falls, which has a population of less than 200,000 people. South Dakota's second largest city is Rapid City, which has a population of only about 74,000. So, if you're looking for a city with a big nightlife or someplace where the hottest new artists play stadium tours, you're not going to find it here. Plus, for all of you sports fans out there, you probably want to know that South Dakota has 0 major league sports teams. If you want to go to a major sports game, you'll need to travel to a whole different state. Other traditional urban amenities like shopping or a diverse restaurant scene are also few and far between, which brings me to my next point. Number 2, it lacks a central cuisine. Most of the food in South Dakota is considered pretty bad. I'm not exaggerating. A recent study found that South Dakota has some of the worst food in the entire country. Completed by the publication BESTLIFE, the study looked at 3 factors to determine best and worst food by state. 1. How appealing and diverse the restaurant scene is. 2. The sustainability and popularity of locally grown produce and meat. And 3. How accessible, healthy, affordable food is. The results? South Dakota ranked 45th, with only 5 states ranking worse. Part of the reason for this might be that South Dakota doesn't really have a central cuisine. If you go to Texas in search of a meal, for instance, you'll probably stumble across Tex-Mex or brisket. If you go to Massachusetts, you'll likely find more clam chowder options than you can possibly imagine. But if you go to South Dakota, you'll find, well, we're not really sure what you'll find. South Dakota's most famous dish, for example, is what's known as chislic. This is cut up cubes of meat like lamb or beef, which are then deep fried and served in a dish or on skewers. Another South Dakotan favorite is kuchen, a German cake-like pastry. Then we have kolache, a Central European puff pastry filled with fruit. Even if these dishes sound appetizing on their own, the point here is simple. South Dakota doesn't really have any cuisine that it's known for, meaning that the food scene here tends to be on the lower end of the scale compared to other states. Number 3, there's not a lot of job opportunity. Before I get into this, I do want to acknowledge that South Dakota has a very low unemployment rate. But while you may have no problem getting a job here, what I'm talking about is diversity of employment. Want to work in arts and entertainment, sports, a big marketing firm? You probably won't find many opportunities in this state. In fact, South Dakota's biggest industry is agriculture. In 2017, South Dakotan farmers and ranchers sold over $10 billion worth of agricultural products like corn, soybean, and wheat. It's also one of the top 10 states by acreage in terms of soybeans and wheat, with 5.6 million acres dedicated to soybeans and 1.3 million dedicated to wheat. This is great news if you're in agriculture, but if you're in another industry, especially a more creative one, you'll probably have a much harder time here. Number 4, there are tornadoes. As if freezing temperatures weren't bad enough, South Dakota also experiences regular tornadoes at an average of 36 per year. This places it number 15 by tornado count when compared to other states. What's worse is that the months that are supposed to be some of the best times of the year see the most tornadoes. Instead of basking in the sun in June after a long winter, for instance, you might find yourself on constant tornado watch. That's because June, on average, sees 16 tornadoes. That's an average of 4 tornadoes every week. Plus, South Dakota is a part of what's known as Tornado Alley. I know that sounds terrifying. For those of you who don't know what this is, Tornado Alley is an area in the central United States where tornadoes are most common. It includes states like Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, and, you guessed it, South Dakota. Number 5. The roads are bad. Imagine cruising down the street when, bam, you drive right over a giant pothole. Next thing you know, your tire is punctured or your wheel is cracked and you're scrambling to find a tow truck. Hundreds or even thousands of dollars later, you're still trying to figure out what happened. Well, pothole season is what happened. That's right. South Dakotans have a name for the time of year right after winter when the roads are damaged from extreme weather and haven't yet been fixed. And I'm not talking about an occasional pothole here or there. I'm talking about lots of them. Number 6. It has extreme weather. Did you know that South Dakota is the 13th coldest state in the entire country? That's right. The average temperature year-round is only 47.9 degrees Fahrenheit. For reference, Florida, which has some of the warmest year-round weather, has an average annual temperature of 73.4 degrees. In South Dakota, the thermometer swings wildly from one end of the spectrum to the other, depending on the season. Normally, the temperature ranges from 15 degrees in the winter to 90 degrees in the summer. Sometimes the ranges can be even more extreme, from -4 degrees in the winter to over 100 degrees in the summer months. But want to hear something that's even more wild? The hottest temperature recorded in South Dakota was 120 degrees, and the lowest ever recorded was -48 degrees. That's a range of 168 degrees. Number 7. There's a low driving age. In South Dakota, you can get your permit at the tender age of 14. This is one of the youngest minimum ages for a permit in the entire U.S. Although this does come with restrictions and requires you to have an adult in the car with you while you're driving, it's still not a very relaxing thought to imagine just how many 14-year-olds may be on the road. And according to the data, letting kids this young on the road might not be a good idea. South Dakota has the highest rate of underage DUI arrests for those under 18 among all other states and has some of the highest rates of motor fatalities amongst teenagers. Number 8. Many people have gambling addictions. According to WalletHub, South Dakota is the second most gambling-addicted state in the entire country after Nevada. To arrive at this ranking, WalletHub looked at 20 metrics such as the number of illegal gambling operations, the percent of adults with gambling disorders, and the number of lottery sales per capita. And according to the National Council on Problem Gambling, approximately 1.4% of South Dakota's adults, which represents over 10,000 people, struggle from a gambling problem. Number 9. The politics are one-sided. Did you know that according to a recent survey, the number one reason people want to leave South Dakota is because of politics? While South Dakota certainly attracts a number of people for its conservative politics, and people are even fleeing blue states to come here, some South Dakotans who lean moderate or liberal are looking to leave South Dakota in search of states with differing political views. That's because a whopping 45% of people here lean liberal, yet South Dakota's politics are overwhelmingly dominated by conservatives. Whatever your political beliefs may be, that's a huge disconnect. And the result is that, according to a 2019 study by the Congressional Committee, a large number of South Dakota's most college-educated residents who also lean more liberal leave the state. In fact, South Dakota loses people in this category at a higher rate than nearly any other state in the entire country. Number 10. There are bugs. I know what you're thinking. Every state has bugs, right? Well, you would be right, but I'm not talking about your average fly or mosquito. I'm talking about Lyme disease-carrying ticks, tree-killing pine beetles, and earwigs, which, according to urban legend, burrow into your brain. If you're feeling squeamish, I don't blame you. but it's going to get worse. Let me dive deeper into some of these bugs. Let's start with ticks. South Dakota is home to 17 species of ticks, including ticks that carry Lyme disease and Rocky Mountain spotted fever, which can potentially be fatal. Then there are those tree-killing beetles I mentioned. That's right, these beetles have begun invading South Dakota's beautiful Black Hills National Forest, infecting and killing trees. Then there's the earwig. It's called this because, per an old wives' tale, this bug was thought to crawl into your ear when you sleep and lay eggs in your brain. Of course, this isn't true, but it's still creepy nonetheless. What about why nobody is moving to Seattle? Watch this video to learn about that.